Howdy y'all, and welcome to the It's About Us YouTube series. I'm Mitch Mason alongside Richard Zane here. We are two sophomore telecommunication and media studies major here at Texas A&M, and we're just trying to have a little bit of fun with this.
Yeah, definitely. Our goals here for this is definitely to get us a little bit of work. We both want to eventually work in the sports broadcasting field, so we need to keep our skills sharp, and this is a great opportunity to have fun and grow and get some practice as we go along, and gives us a chance to talk about what we both love, and that is sports. Obviously, we're going to start with college football because college football is king here in College Station.
Absolutely.
And most of the Southeast.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and get into it, I guess.
Yeah, so just so y'all know kind of what's going on, this is going to be basically 2 shows per week. We're going to do a show at the beginning of the college football week before all the games kick off, and then one at the end of the week, probably around Monday is when we should be posting it, wrapping up the week, talking about our picks and whether or not we got those right, and just kind of wrapping up the college football week, and then we'll start the whole process over again in the middle towards the end of the week. But to give y'all an idea of what the show is going to look like week in and week out, and again, this is kind of subject to change as we find it necessary. But first, we're going to talk about the A&M matchup for this for the upcoming week. For this week, it'll be Texas A&M versus UCLA. We'll then move into kind of the SEC breakdown, looking around the league, seeing what other teams in the SEC are doing. Finally, moving into the top 10 matchups, whether or not those are in the SEC or not, we'll discuss those, and then we'll move into our picks for those games, including the A&M game at the end.
Yeah, always, got to focus on what's here at home, and that's the Aggies and the rest of the SEC. So, unfortunately for all you Big 12 fans and the rest of the state of Texas, not going to have much coverage here because your league's not very good this year.
But we do appreciate you watching us anyway. Okay, so to get this first show starting, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about A&M's opening matchup with UCLA. Richard, you want to start off with that?
The Aggies will meet with UCLA. UCLA is currently ranked 16th in the AP poll. Yeah, right. 24th in the coaches poll. It's a little more like it, in my opinion. September the 3rd at 2:30 on CBS. If you're in College Station and you're getting ready to go, make sure you hydrate and bring a lot of sunscreen. It's going to be a scorcher. Yeah, Kyle Field's going to be rocking 102,000, and Josh Rosen's going to find out just how loud it is.
Yeah, I think he is.
We'll get to that in just a minute. Anyways, head coach Jim Mora is coming into his 5th year at UCLA. He's been a former NFL head man in Seattle and Atlanta. The interesting thing to note for this game is that UCLA is going to have their offensive coordinator is going to be calling plays for the first time in his career after Noel Mazzoni moved to greener pastures here in College Station. Yeah. He's a running back coach, so it makes me think that they're going to run a little more, kind of slow it down a little bit. But at the same time, Josh Rosen is rated by Kirk Herbstreit as the best passer in NCAA and best pure passer in college football right now. Yeah. So I'm kind of up in the air on what to expect from UCLA tomorrow. Funny thing, what I found this really funny is their defensive coordinator, Tom Bradley, has been watching film of old UCLA games to try and figure out what Noel Mazzoni's going to run at Kyle Field. But, yeah, like I said, the key player for them is Josh Rosen. He's a sophomore. He was a freshman All-American last year. Threw for over 3,000 yards. The exact number is 3,668 at a 23-11 touchdown interception ratio. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, he's a little bit of a jerk. He's very sure of himself.
He is very confident.
Confidence is a good thing. Me and Mitch are both baseball players, and I used to say you have to have a little bit of cockiness to play any sport, and he definitely has enough for everybody on their team. This week, he made headlines saying that 50,000 people sounds the same as 100,000 people.
Just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. He's going to find out on Saturday just how loud Kyle Field can be. Nick Saban has said in the past that it's one of the loudest places to go and definitely changes the game in every aspect.
Yeah,
and that's Nick Saban. He's definitely one of the best coaches.
Yeah, no, I don't think Josh Rosen's even close to right about Kyle Field. I think it's going to be an interesting challenge for the Aggies. defense specifically. UCLA does bring a high-powered offense to the table. Obviously, as Richard said, Josh Rosen is super talented, and as young as he is, it's very impressive to see the numbers that he put up last year. I think the key for the Aggies this particular week is to shut down the running game. Like Richard was saying, they have a running back coach as their offensive coordinator now, or a former running back coach. So I think if the Aggies can take care of the defense up front on the line and stop the run and force Rosen to pass, I think our secondary, should be able to step up. But we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Good thing about that aspect is UCLA lost their starting running back last year. Paul Perkins was drafted in the 5th round by the Giants. So right now the depth chart shows that Soso Jamambo, sophomore from Plano West here in Texas. Satanya is a great player. He's a beast. He ran all over my high school when I was there. It was ugly. And then he's expected to split snaps with Nate Starks. Both of them ran for less than 500 yards apiece last year. So it's kind of a little bit of inexperience for the Bruins. Same thing in the receiving game. They lost top receivers Jordan Payton, Thomas Duarte, Miles Jack was in there a little bit. Mm-hmm. Their top receiver coming back is Darren Andrews, and he had 43 catches for 443 yards. They're really leaning on true freshman Theo Howard, who is a 4-star recruit, to be their number 1 receiver.
Yeah, UCLA definitely had a good class of kids coming in this year.
Yes,
for sure.
And like you said, the running game is important to stop. They returned 3 out of 5 offensive linemen, including 2015 All Pac-12 tackle Connor McDermott.
Yeah.
And so that'll be an interesting matchup to see McDermott versus Garrett for sure. They definitely expect both of them to go high in next year's draft.
Yeah, Myles Garrett and Deshaun Hall are going to have to come out firing on this opening weekend for sure to turn the tide for the Aggies. So we'll get into the A&M UCLA game a little bit more later on when we go ahead and pick that game and break it down a little bit more. Right now, we're going to jump into the roster breakdown for the Aggies. Now, this will probably just be for this week, seeing as this is the opening week for Texas A&M football. Richard, what stands out most to you when you look at the A&M roster for 2016?
I think that our receiving core is really stacked. I think Josh Reynolds, Christian Kirk, Ricky Seals-Jones, Speedy Noyle when he comes back after this week. I think we've got some of the best receivers in the country. Definitely in the conference, in the run-heavy conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, John Chavis has already made headlines saying he has the best defensive line in the country, and it's hard to disagree with that when you've got Dalen Mack and Deshaun Hall as your undercard to potentially number 1 or 2 draft pick next year with Myles Garrett. I think the pass rush is just unbelievable, and I think it's going to be even better than last year, and I really hope that we get back to the old wrecking crew days.
That would be awesome. I'm going to take it in 2 directions. Trevor Knight's obviously the most interesting aspect for me. A graduate transfer from OU. He was actually from just down the road in San Antonio, Reagan High School. When he went to OU, he's going to be my player to watch for most of the weeks, just seeing how he responds to the A&M offense. Kevin Sumlin has said that he's been such a leader in the locker room. He's really changed the dynamic and the attitude that the Aggies have towards football this offseason. So I'm excited to see how he leads us into the football season. But also for the secondary, I'm really excited to see Justin Evans and Armani Watts just kind of control that area of the field. As Richard was saying, our defensive line looks really good. Our linebacking core is healthy this year. I'm interested to see if the veteran leadership in the secondary can step up and can control a passing game like Josh Rosen will bring this weekend.
I agree with that completely. What you said about Trevor Knight, he is the big wild card on this team. Everybody seems to think as he goes, the Aggies will go. Yeah. And he's brought a ton of leadership to this team, and it's kind of hyped up a little bit, but also expectations aren't that big. So I think that Trevor Knight has a really good chance to come out here on Saturday and surprise a lot of people. Right. And I'm excited to see how he responds.
Yeah, I think the difference between Trevor Knight and Kyle Allen or Kyler Murray, we'd like to forget about those guys. I think the difference between Knight and the other quarterbacks from last year, specifically his age, but also this is Trevor Knight's last chance to do anything on a college football field. For Allen and Murray, they flaked. They could transfer when it didn't go their way. And for Knight, this is his last chance. So he's going to give it all to the team. He's already been proven to be a leader in the off season. So I'm looking for him to translate that leadership onto the field and hopefully lead this Aggie team to an impressive record.
I like the guy off the field. I really like him. He's just a good guy. He's a likable guy. He's there for all the questions about A&M's culture, losing both quarterbacks. The culture after Johnny Manziel, whatever you want to believe in it or not. He's come in and he's done his part to help change that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he, with no loyalty to the university, he could have come in and just looked for 13 starts and gone to the draft or whatever. He's actually come in here and he's actually helped make a difference for this program, and we can't thank him enough for what he's done.
Yeah, it seems like this year expectations are more driven by focus on getting the fundamentals right as opposed to just kind of blatant hype about the talent and the athletes that we've brought in. So hopefully we see better results here in Aggieland. That would be really, really awesome if we could. The next thing we're going to talk about is the injury report. This will be a weekly thing where we just kind of give you the general injury updates on the team. We just have really one injury right now. Jason Dunning was a sophomore?
I believe so.
Sophomore safety for the Aggies. He tore his ACL a couple weeks ago in practice. He's done for the season, so he will be unavailable, obviously, for the 2016 season. The only other note under that's the only injury, but the other note is Josh Walker, linebacker for A&M, was arrested for assault, and he will not be playing this season either.
He will not be missed.
Yeah,
that is not something we tolerate here or anywhere, so good for Kevin Sumlin.
Tip of the hat for Sumlin for absolutely not tolerating that and just going ahead and removing that problem.
And don't forget Speedy, missing today's game, serving his second game of his suspension from last year, violation of team rules. We all know what that means.
Yeah.
We won't get into that, but when Speedy comes back, he should definitely be an X factor and help that receiving corps and just be another weapon that Trevor Knight can utilize on the football field.
He's just got to stay out of legal issues. That's all. Okay, so let's go ahead and break down this SEC schedule. We've got a decent, maybe not a decent SEC schedule, although a couple of our teams are in the top 10. We'll talk about the SEC schedule and then the top 10 schedule in just a second. But Richard, the first game on the slate, September 1st, Appalachian State travels to Tennessee on the SEC network. Give us your breakdown on that.
We know who Appalachian State is. Michigan knows who Appalachian State is. The world knows them from the biggest upset of all time. Jalen Hurd is their running back. He's their X factor. He's their big man.
For Tennessee.
For Tennessee, yes, sorry. Similar to how Michigan had a big running back named Mike Hart back in, 2006?
It was a while ago.
Yeah. They were both top 10, both kind of like, why are they in the top 10? Then Appalachian State came in. I think Tennessee's overrated. What's the spread on that game?
20.5.
20.5. I think it's more 10-point game. I think Butch Jones and company struggle, but I think Tennessee does get away from Appalachian State.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think Tennessee's overrated coming into this year. The fact is, the last few years, they just haven't produced. They haven't produced any results that would back up their 9th overall rating to me this year. Now, obviously, the coaches poll and the Associated Press see differently. I'd like to see Tennessee actually prove themselves this year before they crack my personal top 10. No doubt that they're talented. Josh Dobbs is returning at quarterback. As you said, Jalen Hurd is returning at running back. He's a phenomenal athlete. So Tennessee has the talent to be able to potentially be a top 10 team and compete in the SEC. But for me, I'd like to see them actually prove that on the field instead of just being hyped up. So we'll see. I'm taking Tennessee. I think you're taking Tennessee.
I think everybody's taking Tennessee.
Yeah, there's no question here. I think Tennessee, I don't know if they run away with this game, but they definitely move out of week one with a win. The next game is South Carolina at Vanderbilt. It's also on September 1st. The line on that is Vandy -4. Who are you taking?
Take South Carolina. I think quarterback Perry Orth and we saw him last year on Halloween, and he gave the A&M defense fits. The only time I've watched him, he gave me fits at Kyle Field last year. And I think South Carolina moves into this first full year without the old ball coach, and Will Muschamp at least gets a win for week one. everybody in Columbia is happy, at least for a week.
Yeah, I agree with you, Perry Worth. This is his first full year as a starting quarterback for South Carolina. Last year in limited starts, he completed 143 passes for just under 2,000 yards, threw 12 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. One of those secured the win for the Aggies last year here in College Station. But yeah, like you say, it's Will Muschamp's first year as the head ball coach at South Carolina. I think he brings an energy to the team, at least for week 1. And, Vanderbilt, while coached well, I think, by Derek Mason down there, I don't see Vanderbilt standing up to the South Carolina offense. So I'm going to go with the Gamecocks as well. September 3rd, South Alabama USA challenges Mississippi State. That's an 11 o'clock kick on the SEC Network. Mississippi State favored by 28 points. Who you got?
Mississippi State moves into life without Dak Prescott seamlessly. They run all over the Jags, and it's just not even close.
Yes.
Next.
No, there's nothing else to say with that one. Missouri against West Virginia, also an 11 o'clock kick on Fox Sports 1. West Virginia by 10. What's your pick?
It's a little bit of a closer line, and you'd like to be able to pull for your own conference, but I don't think Missouri's going to get it done. I think Barry Odom in his first year at Ole Miss, he's a young coach, he's a good coach. I don't think he's going to get it done week 1. I think I got to shout out to my boy Clint Trickett now that he's on Last Chance U. Give his win the alma mater, and I think QB Skylar Howard gives the Tigers fits.
Yeah, Howard last year, he's actually from Brewer High School in Fort Worth, just north of us. Last year threw for 3,145 yards, 26 touchdowns, and only 14 interceptions. I think he's the X factor for West Virginia this year. As he goes, the Mountaineers will go, and I think week 1 Missouri won't be able to handle him. So I'm gonna pick West Virginia as well. LSU versus Wisconsin at 2:30 on ABC. This is a big game. This is actually a bit of a historic game. It's in Lambeau Field for the first time in several years that Lambeau's ever hosted a college football game. Who you got, the conference, or are you going to pick the Badgers?
I'm going to go with the number 5 ranked LSU Tigers. I think Leonard Fournette is a monster that is probably not going to be stopped anytime soon until he meets Myles Garrett on Thanksgiving night, but we'll get to that. I think nobody's stopping Leonard Fournette. The only way Wisconsin has a chance is if J.J. Watt finds another year of eligibility. Don't think he does. My game prediction is Les Miles eats more blades of Lambeau turf than Wisconsin scores some points.
Wow, there you go. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think it's going to be a bit of an offensive shootout. You've got, Brandon Harris, Malachi Dupree, and Leonard Fournette, obviously the big stars for LSU. Now they're going up against a top 20 defense for Wisconsin a year ago. Wisconsin's returning a number of their starters. Should be interesting to see how LSU responds to that defensive load that Wisconsin will bring. But for whatever reason, I'm feeling like this is going to be a bit of an offensive shootout. It seems like when two defenses meet and get hyped up for whatever reason, they don't live up to expectations. So for whatever reason, I'm predicting a little bit of a barn burner, but I'm going to go with LSU as well. I think they have too much in the tank for Wisconsin to ultimately be able to hold.
Yeah. You play this game in a couple months from now when it's cold up there in Wisconsin, I think it's a completely different story. But LSU's going to run away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Louisiana Tech against Arkansas, 3 o'clock kick on the SEC Network. Arky's favored by 26 points.
Yeah, it's going to be a little closer than that. Arkansas has a history of underachieving, at least in the more recent past. I just want to watch Brett Bielema throw a fit on the sidelines. That's one of my favorite things to watch in all of college football.
He is entertaining.
If you've been watching the Being Brett Bielema series on the SEC Network, you have just gotten a show. I think there was one little segment where he went shopping in Fayetteville, and some woman came up and was like, "Do I know you?" And he was like, I'm a famous shopper." Kept walking along, but yeah, Arkansas wins. Not as big as they would hope, but they do get the W.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I don't think they cover that line at all. There's no way in my mind that they win by almost 4 touchdowns. Louisiana Tech's not a powerhouse by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't really consider Arkansas to be that either. I think they're a scrappy team, as they've shown for the past few years, but I just don't think that they'll live up to that expectation of a 26-point favorite. I do think experience wins it for Arkansas, though. They're returning 10 starters this year. They have the experience of the rough and tumble type of atmosphere in the SEC. So ultimately, I think Louisiana Tech falls to Arkansas, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than the numbers would indicate. Big game on ESPN at 4:30. Georgia versus North Carolina. Georgia's ranked 18th. North Carolina is 22nd. Georgia's favored by 2.5 on the road. Who you got?
It's Kirby Smart's first game as a Georgia Bulldog, coming back to his alma mater, replacing Mark Richt, who left after last year. And they've got a huge X factor, Nick Chubb, who's probably going to run for, I want to say, 150, maybe 200 yards on North Carolina on Saturday. But for some reason, I have no idea why I'm going with this. I'm going to take North Carolina in an upset.
See, I'm going to take Georgia here, and it's for all the reasons that Richard just said. North Carolina definitely is a talented team. They've got a strong, explosive offense. They have one of the best offensive lines in the SEC. They have Elijah Hood coming back as their running back. So North Carolina is going to score some points. I think Georgia's going to score points as well. They have a strong offensive line in addition to Nick Chubb. And as we've seen in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys in 2014, remember that season, if you have a strong offensive line and a running back that can move between the tackles and get out, kick the, what do they call them? We're going to cut that. What do you call it? Never mind. Who can sprint through gaps and really break it out once he gets to the next level like Nick Chubb can. I don't think North Carolina is really going to be able to stop that. They've had a shaky defense the last few years. I think that trend continues this year. I think Georgia does pull it out on the road. Okay, Southern Miss at Kentucky, 6:30 kick on ESPNU. I don't really know who cares about this game, but we're going to go ahead and pick it anyway. Kentucky's a 6.5 point favorite. Richard, do you care enough to explain about this?
I care because Brett Favre cares. Nick Mullins, a senior quarterback from Southern Miss, he is the Conference USA preseason player of the year. I think he leads the Golden Eagles to victory in a SEC road game. Sorry, stick to basketball, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Next.
Mullins last year, he and wide receiver DJ Thompson led their team to the conference championship game. They did lose to Western Kentucky, but that connection's definitely there. I think Southern Miss pulls the upset, I guess, if you could call it. I mean, they are beating an SEC team and they are the underdog, but honestly, I don't see Kentucky winning this game. I just don't think they have enough talent or the defense to stop this high-powered Golden Eagles offense. So Southern Miss will win on the road. The next game is UMass at Florida, number 25 ranked Florida, 6:30 kick on the SEC Network. Florida is a 36.5 point favorite. That's right, 36.5 points. Is there any way UMass pulls this upset?
I'm gonna tell. I might go with the line. Honestly,
Really?
I think. Yeah, my notes right here. It says Gators big next.
There you
That's
go.
it. Jim McElwain's happy.
There you go. It is interesting to note Florida will have a new quarterback this year in Luke Del Rio. Jalen Tabor and Quincy Wilson are going to be taking over for Vernon Hargraves, who was one of the top draft picks at cornerback last year in the NFL. But other than that, I don't see any way that UMass even gets close to this. I don't think Florida wins by 36.5. I never believe that lines like that are accurate, but
when you're playing
they could.
They're playing a hockey school. A hockey school, not a basketball school like Kentucky.
True.
A hockey school.
Anyway, regardless, Florida wins big by 36.5. I don't know, but we'll go ahead and move on. Big game in Dallas, where I am from. Actually, where we're both from. Number 20 USC taking on the top-ranked school in the country, Alabama. That is at Jerry World. It's a 7 o'clock kick on ABC. Who you got?
Okay, number 20 USC comes into this. What's the line? That's like what? 12 points, something?
12.5.
12.5. What did I say? I'm a genius. Anyways, wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. It's a fun name to say, and he's a fun player to watch, but I don't think Mac Brown's going to have the time to throw to him. I think Alabama's defense is just absolutely insane. And then when you think about Alabama's offense, you wonder, well, they lost Jake Coker and Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter. Alabama's lost a good running back every year for like the last 5 years. Bo Scarborough is just the next guy up, and he's a monster. So Alabama, I think USC is overrated. I think they fall out of the top 25 after this week. I think they lose by 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
And a field goal.
I'm going.
Right.
I'm
bringing out the
channeling
league
my league course.
There you
yes.
go. Yeah, roll Tide. As unfortunate as it is to say that, I'm picking Bam. I don't think USC can pull this one
Don't
out.
say those words.
Number 2, Clemson travels to Auburn. That's an 8:00 kick on ESPN. What is the line for that game? The line is 7.5. Clemson is the favorite. Who you got?
I don't think it's that close. I think Deshaun Watson takes care of business. He's going to show you why he's the Heisman favorite coming into this year. I think Gus Malzahn's going to try and pull his hair out on the sideline. I think Dabo Swinney's going to dab on everybody.
There you go. Yeah, if Auburn's defense is somehow able to stop Deshaun Watson in this high-powered offense, I'll be stumped. I don't see how Auburn does that. I think Clemson wins relatively big. I don't think it's a close game at all. So Clemson on the road, I'll take them all the time. The last game here is Ole Miss at Florida State, 7:00 kick on ESPN. On a Sunday night. Yep.
College football is taking care of us before the NFL gets back. I'm going to take number 4 for Florida State. I think Ole Miss has way too many off-field distractions. I think Hugh Freeze is going to have a ton of tough questions to answer this week and after this week, pretty much for the entire season before the NCAA comes in and drops the hammer. Honestly, I think my favorite player on the team over at Florida State is the kicker, Ricky Aguayo, because he is Robert Aguayo's brother.
There you go.
And that kid was automatic, so it's got to be running in the blood. But I think Jimbo Fisher and company take care of business in Orlando, and I think they're going to go to Disney World afterwards.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm going to channel Lee Corso too. I'm going to take Ole Miss on the road here. I think the key matchup here is between quarterbacks. I think Chad Kelly comes in here with a ton of experience, obviously a ton of talent. His issue has been more off the field than it has on the field. No one's really arguing what he brings to the table once he gets between the hashes. I think Chad Kelly versus the redshirt freshman starting quarterback for Florida State, DeAndre Francois. I don't really know a ton about Francois. I know he is a talented athlete, but he hasn't proven anything on the football field yet. While this game is at Florida State's home field, I think Chad Kelly and a high-powered Ole Miss offense come into town, and I think they shock the world like they did against Alabama. I think Ole Miss comes away with the win here, and Jimbo Fisher is left frustrated at the end of the night. So we'll see with that.
All right, we'll go ahead and move into the top 10 breakdown. We're going to do this every week. We're going to start at 10 and work our way back to 1, obviously not rehashing what we already rehashed in the SEC preview. So this week we'll start with number 10, Notre Dame. Visits the Texas Longhorns on Sunday, 6:30 p.m. kickoff on ABC. Mitch, who you got in this one?
Well, Notre Dame's favored by 3.5 points. I think it should be a little bit higher than that. I think that's largely because the game is in Austin and not in South Bend. I can't take Texas here, even though they're the home team, and they're favored in most RPI ranks when it comes to the majority of their games. A lot of people are actually picking them to win the Big 12 and even make it into the college football playoff. They haven't proven anything. Under the Charlie Strong administration, they have a horrendous losing record until they start to prove something on the field instead of just in the recruiting class, which, don't get me wrong, they had a fantastic recruiting class this year, but until they put that together on the football field, I'm not going to take the Longhorns over a top 10 team. So I think Notre Dame actually wins this one rather comfortably.
See, this one's a tough one for me to pick. One, I don't like either team. I'm an Aggie. I don't like the T-Sips. And I'm a college football fan that is a Notre Dame fan, so I don't like the Fighting Irish. Yeah. But even aside that, biases aside, I go by the mantra, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, because who's the guy at Creech, Drum, or whatever. We saw that here in College Station. Thank goodness that's not us anymore. Right. Notre Dame, who's going to start? Kaiser or Zaire, rather. Sorry. Mm-hmm. And at Texas, who's the guy? Yeah. Charlie Strong this week said, the guy who starts will be the starter. And he said they know who the guy is. He's really channeling Yogi Berra and being a philosopher. It's really weird. It's a weird quote. If you want to go read it, I don't really care. Anyways, I just want to see Torrey Hunter Jr. get a touchdown in his home state of Texas. I like that kid. I like his dad. It's a good family. Mm-hmm. And I think Notre Dame does find a way to win this one. And I think the line is rather spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with these two teams, there's a lot of expectations historically that these two schools have for their football teams and athletic programs in general, but recently at least, neither team has even come close to meeting those expectations. I think Brian Kelly and Charlie Strong are both on the hot seat a little bit this season. So
Charlie Strong, definitely.
Yeah.
Tom Herman's your replacement, buddy. He's coming. We'll get to that in a second.
So I think for both of these teams, it's extremely important to get started with a win. Like I said, I think Notre Dame wins, but we'll see on Sunday.
Right.
Moving on
to number 8, Stanford versus Kansas State in California on Friday, 8 o'clock on FS1. Mitch, Christian McCaffrey, or do you like Bill Snyder's Wildcats?
No, I think Christian McCaffrey's the offense for Stanford this year. I think he solidifies this game. I don't know enough about Kansas State to say that they can stop him or get wrecked by him, but so far Christian McCaffrey has proven that he is a tier 1 athlete in college football. I think he's the X factor here. I think Stanford wins. I don't know if they win by 2 touchdowns. We'll have to see about that, but I think Stanford definitely comes away with the win.
The game's an 8 o'clock Central Time kick. That's after Bill Snyder's bedtime. Pac-12 After Dark's hard for anybody to watch. It's going to be really hard for the senior to watch. I think Christian McCaffrey goes nuts while Coach Bill Snyder sleeps on the sidelines. Moving on, number 7, Michigan will face Hawaii at the Big House on 11 a.m. Saturday on ESPN. What do you got?
I mean, it's hard to pick against Michigan in the Big House, regardless of the fact that it's the Rainbow Warriors coming to town. Michigan's favored by 41 points. Again, I don't know if they exceed that, but Michigan definitely wins here. They've got all the talent in the world to beat the Rainbow Warriors, so Hawaii didn't stand a chance.
Like you said, I don't think anybody's a 41-point favorite. I don't think you should ever bet on that. But I do think Jabril Peppers goes nuts. His numbers will not be as crazy as Jim Harbaugh's post-game presser, though. So next, Michigan's rival, the number 6 Ohio State Buckeyes, will welcome in Bowling Green, 11 a.m. on the Big Ten Network. Do we need to talk about it, really?
I think it would be interesting if Bowling Green came out here and made a statement like they've made in the past. They've been MAC champions a number of times, so they're a decent squad, but I don't think they hold up to Ohio State. I don't think the Buckeyes are going to be as good as their national championship team was a couple of years ago, but they're definitely still a very, very solid team. Ohio State wins this game.
Yeah, I think JT Barrett goes nuts against the Bowling Green defense, and Ohio State wins big.
Yeah, no question.
All right, we'll move on to our last game on the top 10 breakdown. Number 3, Oklahoma versus number 15, Houston. Neutral site action at NRG Stadium in Houston. I don't know if it's a neutral site, but it kind of is because UH doesn't have that big of a following, whatever. 11 o'clock on ABC. Who you got?
Well, I think this is Baker Mayfield's year to shine. Last year they came so close to a national championship and just faltered in that semifinal game. I think Mayfield has his team ready to go this year. While Houston surprised a ton of people last year in their upset in the Sugar Bowl over Florida State, I still think Bob Stoops has his guys ready to go. I think Baker Mayfield's just a little bit too talented for that Houston defense.
Good pick, Mitch, but you're wrong, and here's why. This is a coming out party for Tom Herman. He knows he's going to get a big deal wherever it is, whether it's here, whether it's in Austin, Waco, wherever it is. He's going to get a bunch of money. If it's in Austin, he's got to get used to beating Oklahoma. And he's got a great chance to do that. I think T-Sips get way too excited after UH wins big. I think Greg Ward Jr. and company throw so many touchdowns that Baker Mayfield can't even comprehend it. So I'm going to take UH in a shootout that UH in more than 2 scores as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, we've covered the SEC, we've covered the top 10. Now it's time for our favorite game of the weekend. Texas A&M hosts UCLA this Saturday. 2:30 is the kick on CBS. It is an afternoon primetime game. Unfortunately for us, that means we're going to melt. But we're going to be there yelling loudly and proudly as we can.
Let Josh hear us.
Yeah, we are going to let Josh hear us. Let him know what 102,000 people sound like. Richard,
sounds the same as 50,000.
What's your key to the game here? What does A&M have to do to win this game?
The key to the game is Trevor Knight. We talked about that earlier. He's the key to the season. He's the key to every game. We don't know how he's going to play. He's the wild card. If he can get the ball moving, then the Aggies have a chance, and the Aggies score points, then the defense can come in and do what they do best. And John Chavis and company can shut down UCLA's offense. I think that happens. I think it's ugly. I think it's close. But I think the Aggies come out by a field goal.
My key to the game would be turnovers. Last year we saw the Aggies fall numerous times after just numerous turnovers. We had the Bama game, at least I thought we did. I thought we were going to come back and solidify that win, and then we had all of the pick sixes that ruined that for us. So I think if Trevor Knight can be smart with the football, if we can take care of business and just run our offense like we can, I think the defense under John Chavis in year 2 will step up. I think they'll be solid. I think that's the key to an A&M win. Just take care of the football, and I think the rest will take care of itself. We're going to be screaming as loud as we can to shake up Josh Rosen, show him what 100,000 people sounds like, but that's my key to the game. Just take care of the football, do your work, and I think that the Aggies come out with a win.
I think so too, and hopefully, I think everybody else feels the same way. I think UCLA is a little overrated coming into the year. No doubt Josh Rosen's a great coach, or a great quarterback, and Jim Moore's a great coach. Mm-hmm. They've got all the pieces to make a nice Pac-12 run, but it's not going to start this week in College Station. I think they're just not prepared for what they're going to see here in College Station. I think it's going to be an absolute awesome scene at Kyle, and I cannot wait to start watching college football all weekend.
This is SEC country after all. Well, that's going to do it for us. For Richard Zane, for Mitch Mason, thank you so much for watching. We will continue to bring you videos as the season progresses, so stay tuned to our channel. Thanks and gig 'em.